90s.
I had to meet someone the other day, and I went for a handshake, and he went for a fist bump. But it was all right, but it was touch and go.
It's the worst. It's the worst. I often watch that Jeremy. I think I've mentioned this in the podcast before, but I often watch that Jeremy Corbyn clip. You know, the one where he turns around to try and high five a woman. She doesn't know what's going on because she's just not a high fiver. She's not. Some people aren't. It goes down, hand to breast contact. Because I watch it and I just go, that there, but for the grace of God, go any of us. No. Like the amount of times I've almost or actually done that.
So easily
it's
done.
Just terrible, isn't it?
That's just made me think of the YouTube clip of that is that vicar or something, that minister, where like a cat just goes and hides under his cassock. I don't know why
I've not seen that. Okay. It sounds brilliant. Please send that to me. Hello. We should say yes. We're in the same room.
He's right there.
I'm right here. You people who may have believed we've always been in the same room. That's not the case. We're not in the same room. We rarely, if ever, meet. I think this is the second time we've met.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second time we've ever met.
In 25 years.
It's weird. It's just how we do.
Yeah.
But now I'm in Mim's lovely flat. I will not disclose the location, obviously, lest thousands of fans turn up, swarm the place.
Yeah.
Big podcast fans.
We're at an undisclosed London location.
Oh, well, you said it was London. It's narrowed it down too much. It's near the big car park in London. You know that one?
Yeah.
It's near there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you'll never find it. No. And I don't live here, so ultimately I don't know what I'm worried about. But yeah, we're here to, I never know how to introduce this podcast, and we've done a particularly bad job of it today by literally just starting to talk before anything had happened.
Yes. Welcome to
Sam and Mim's 90s Time Machine podcast.
Oh, that was a nice bit of Matt Berry at the end. I like that.
It did go a bit Berry.
Do you think he'd do that? But we'd have to pay him thousands, wouldn't we?
Matt Berry would never. I don't think he touched this with the barge.
Could we crowdfund it? We would like 15 seconds of Matt Berry audio.
We got to know someone, haven't we? We've got to know someone that knows some. We're plugged into the comedy world, aren't we?
I would have thought so.
Yeah, we've got to know someone that knows Matt Berry, or we'll come at him obliquely through Josh Homme. We've got to know someone who's been in Queens of the Stone Age, haven't we?
Surely.
Bass player or something.
Yeah. Answers on a postcard.
I know Troy Van Leuven.
Do you?
No, I don't.
I don't know who that is.
I'm impressed that I remember. I'm not
I knew that
even sure he's called Troy Van Leuven. So there we go. But yeah, we're going. It's an interesting episode.
Yeah.
Because we're good at. You said that in it's actually quite an interesting episode today.
No, it is.
But
there's
not
a lot going on.
Not in a way as sad as you made it sound.
Yeah, I made it sound like a documentary, which it might become that.
Some of the issues we're going to talk about today may affect you. And if that's the case, there are numbers you can call.
No, there aren't.
What those numbers are. But none of the issues discussed in this podcast will affect you. I can guarantee you that.
Don't guarantee.
No, you're right. I've gone in too strong with a guarantee. I shouldn't have done that. But they're unlikely to affect you because we're talking about kids' telly.
Yay!
Kids' telly from the 90s, obviously.
Yeah, Sam's 90s Time Machine podcast.
Yeah, because anything before the 90s or after the 90s is irrelevant.
Doesn't exist.
Not only to this podcast, but to us in general. We've no interest in doing that. But before we get on to anything else, we've got to have a rummage, haven't we? Surely.
Yeah.
A rummage through the How Have You Been bag. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, all right. I've really not thought of anything. So I'm like, why am I going first? I've got no idea.
You're going first because I'm just buying time because I haven't thought of anything either.
I'm absolutely fine. I'm very excited that you're here. I've drank a lot of coffee already.
I've drank a lot of coffee.
So we're going to whip through this.
This is going to be very quick, and towards the end, we'll probably both need a wee, but be pretending that we don't. So watch out for the tension as it builds.
Yeah. If you can slow down the audio when you listen to this, like playback speed, you might want to listen to it at like, really slow.
0.5.
Yeah.
That's what I do generally, or 0.25.
Because we're going to jibber jabber through it.
And also just make it last. Do you know what I mean?
But no, I'm good. I finished my kitchen.
I've seen the kitchen. You're not going to see the kitchen.
No.
You don't need to see the kitchen, but I've seen the kitchen.
You made that sound like rude, like you can't see it. It's a podcast, that's why you can't see it.
I mean, they can see us here.
We're not in the kitchen.
No, this is not. There's no sofa in the kitchen. I had a sofa in my kitchen for a very long time.
You did.
And the more I think about it, the more ridiculous that is. It's very louche to have a sofa in your
smells.
kitchen. Oh, the sofa itself. The reason why I felt so confident to put it in the kitchen because it was revolting before I even got in there.
Okay.
It had been in like what essentially was a student house for about a decade. It was absolutely terrible.
It was all right. It wasn't as revolting as that rug that you found once.
Oh, the maggot rug. Yeah. Yeah.
Found a rug in the street and brought it home.
I found a rug in the street. I brought it home. It was night time. I brought it home. I took it up to my spare room. I unfurled the full length of the rug. I had sort of thought, why is there sort of stuff going on there? And then turned the light on and it was completely covered in maggots.
I wasn't there, but
No.
I still have nightmares about it. So when you said this podcast isn't going to upset anyone, I think it already has.
Well, you brought up
it
the
was
maggot
totally
rug.
my fault.
I had buried that deep.
Yeah, sorry about that. But no, yeah, fine. All fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm solid. I'm all right. The journey to London today, relatively uneventful.
Nice.
Did, as I said last time, notice as you get off at Clapham Junction, just the difference between the folk of Brighton and the folk of London. Folk of London, I love you all, but you do have angry, scary faces.
No.
When travelling, I think you have to, right?
I don't know.
Do you not have like an angry tube face that you do?
I don't think so.
I think you do, you just don't realise it.
Maybe. I quite like, so I do quite like the interaction with other like Londoners, say like on a Friday when everyone's just like a little bit tired and they're just like heading home. But then there's people who have arrived in London on a night out and they're already drunk at 5:30. And there's a lot of really friendly eye rolling that goes on between commuters and like, oh, these silly drunken tourists being ridiculous. And then saying things like, everyone in London really grumpy and like, yeah, really loudly. I quite like that. They can be quite friendly to each other then.
It's fair. You get that a lot. That does happen in Brighton as well.
It's exactly the same in a tourist place.
If you're walking toward, if you're trying to go, like if you're commuting, I've never commuted between Brighton. I think people who commute between Brighton and London, I mean, hats off to you. I think it's a borderline psychotic thing to choose to do with your time. But yeah, you obviously there's a mixture of people who are grumpily trying to get home and people who are embarking on a big night out in Brighton. Yeah. Often a stag night or a hen night.
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing. I've moved from Nottingham, the hen night capital of the Midlands.
And stag night.
And stag night, but I feel like there's more hens in Nottingham.
I can believe that.
It feels hennier.
Yeah, I can believe that.
And then in Brighton, it's both, just a full mix of stags and hens constantly. But usually all right folk. I don't mind them. But yeah, I've done literally, since we last spoke, so little. Very little.
That's good.
Almost nothing. Yeah. I've had a haircut.
It looks nice. You've done some decorating as well.
I've done some, you helped me with that.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then you set the standard for the decorating my house, and then I've not met that standard at all in any other areas of my home.
I felt under pressure. It's someone else's house. You don't want to, I didn't want you to be sat in your living room looking at a little splodge or a scratch of paint and just being like, Miriam.
That's what I was counting on. I was counting on your sense of guilt and duty and how I could use it against you to do an excellent job painting my living room, which you did. Nice. So thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Pleasure.
If you do need someone to paint your living room, Miriam, typically unavailable unless you've established a friendship with her for quite a lot of years, but worth an ask,
yeah,
I'd say.
I liked it.
It was good.
And I got donuts, so yeah.
There you go.
The 90s.
We're talking about children's TV, which we haven't done, and we're already most of the way through season 2.
Yeah, so we felt it was time.
Yeah.
We're going to chat about kids' TV, and we have 2 excellent choices, I think.
We've got 2 and a guest. This is one heck of a show.
I hate to tell you, to tell you how the podcast sausage is made, but the guest isn't actually present. at this moment.
No.
We recorded it
It's a pre-record.
at a different time.
But I think that makes it sound more professional. Like, here's one. And also kids' TV themed. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Oh, lovely. She's tied it all together. Look at the professionalism on that. So, yeah, the first one we're going to talk about is your choice.
My choice, yeah.
And an excellent choice.
Yes, it is Bernard's Watch.
Which I'd never seen before.
I remember watching it, but in that kind of, like, I remember it on, and I was like, I wonder if this is still good. I wonder if this holds up.
Like a classic album.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember such tight bass lines.
Yeah,
I remember. Is it everything I remember it from my youth?
I just remember it's kind of, one of those things I just remember being around. And I remember, because I think the guy who was in it went to my primary school, or his brother went to my primary school. Anyway,
And his name is?
David Peachy.
Great name.
David Peachy. Hello.
Dave Peachy.
I wanted to reach out to him on Twitter, but I couldn't really work out how to do it. But anyway, hi, David Peachy, because I'm sure you're listening.
I find, because, we found that David, I don't think we're putting his business in the street by saying he's now a doctor, right?
I think so.
I think that's what you think. We think he's a doctor.
From light Googling, I think so. I wondered if we had some mutual friends, but it turns out not.
What are you basing? Is he pictured with a stethoscope? What are we basing this on?
Oh no, I think there was an article about him saying this is what he's doing now, and I think he was on Celebrity Pointless.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not being unkind.
Oh.
Is he a celebrity?
I mean, 7 seasons of a show. I think that makes you. So I think
that's a strong rebuttal.
I mean, if we do 7 seasons of this,
God willing.
You're like, God, I hope not.
Where I thought that was going was if we do 7 seasons of this, then we'll probably realise it's time to do something else with our lives and go to medical school. Do you reckon that'll happen? Late, very late.
I mean, if we can afford it with the podcast's winnings. Because it's not earnings.
I love the fact you described them as winnings.
It's
winnings.
It's not earnings. Surely.
So you watch too much competition-based television. You think everything is about winning.
Yeah. But yeah, Bernard's Watch, 1997 for 7 seasons. So well within the 90s.
Yeah. And when I watched it, you could see the production values really did lend themselves to churning out them 7 seasons, I would say.
And they're quite short. They're about 15 minutes an episode.
I'm reckoning. I mean, I'm not sure how telly works, but I feel like they were maybe knocking out 12 a day.
There is that. There's that distinct possibility.
Yeah. So what is the premise of Bernard's Watch, if you could explain that?
Right. Well, I hadn't watched the first episode. I don't think ever. Because that's one of those things if you'd missed the first episode of something, you never.
It's like the first episode of Quantum Leap.
Yeah. So you never watched it unless you bought the VHS, and I didn't. So today was the first, and actually watched it on YouTube, and it was blurry, to say the least.
Yeah, well, we watched one episode on BritBox.
Yeah.
Because as you've said, not to say anything bad about BritBox, Miriam is a paid up subscriber to BritBox. Yeah. I'm not, so I feel I can say this. They've chosen to put a single episode of Bernard's Watch on BritBox.
So random.
What kind of fresh madness is that decision?
Also, it's from like season 3, the one episode they put, and Bernard's like not even in it.
No,
like he's in it for like 2 seconds. It's such an odd choice.
How does that happen? I don't know. Do you like, okay, we need content on BritBox. Obviously, we need content on there because it's not like because the BBC have barely got any content. Sure, like there's so much stuff, and then they were like, Bernard's Watch, it needs to be on there.
Yes,
but I think I'm in a real season. Is it what even episode? I think
it's season 3, episode 1, maybe, but it might be like episode 7. I don't know.
I wonder if it's season 3, like middle of the. They chose the exact middle point.
Maybe if it was halfway through season 3, then it would be. Yeah.
I would love to think that they just went, right, we can't do it all. What can we do? 1 episode.
That one. Let's
not do it. Let's still do it for some reason, but just put that 1 episode right in the middle. So you're into the world of Bernard's Watch.
Yes.
But they needn't have worried, because one of the things I really enjoyed about Bernard's Watch, as I've written in my notes here, is the term excruciating detail.
Oh yeah. But before, we need to tell you a bit more about what Bernard's Watch is.
Yeah, please do.
it's about a boy called Bernard, and we watched episode 1 because we found it on YouTube. It's very, very blurry, so you need like 3D glasses or something to vaguely make it out. But he is having a terrible time. He's late for everything. He's a little boy at primary school, I think. Like,
I really felt that.
9,
yeah,
8 or 9, something.
Yeah,
like that.
I think so. Although I'm really bad at working this
Small
out.
child.
Yeah.
And he's late for everything, and he makes a wish that turns out that he's accidentally sat at the bottom of a rainbow, and a mystery magical delivery man, who I don't think we ever see again, I'm not sure, I need to watch all 7 seasons to find out, turns up in a little magical transit van and gives him a magical pocket watch, which if you click the top of the pocket watch, it stops time for everyone except you and the man in the magical transit van, but he's never there, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, so Bernard's like at the kind of centre of stop time, so he can get around, get all his stuff done, and then restart time, and it's like no time has passed whatsoever. Yeah,
I mean, the central premise is watch that stops time I was aware of.
Yeah.
But delivery, because he happened to be at the end of a magical rainbow.
And made a wish by a bin.
I think that's, made a bin wish.
Yeah, rainbow bin wish, yeah.
Rainbow bin wish. I mean, I don't watch Drag Race at all. I've never seen a single episode of it. But I feel like Rainbow bin wish would potentially be a good drag name.
Yeah, that would be quite good.
And also it'd be great because you could have like a watch around your neck like Flavor Flav, but no one would really know why. And you could keep that going the whole time. And when they eventually asked you about it, you could big up Bernard's watch.
That would be lovely.
Then David Peachy would take notice.
Then he
would not follow you back on Twitter. I see you, Peachy.
But yeah, he's a very busy man, I'm sure. And I didn't actually reach out to him because I was unable to direct message him. So don't you be. He's from my neck of the woods. I'm sure he's all right. But yeah, we watched it. We watched the episode from BritBox and the first one. What did you think? Did you love it?
Yeah, it was very good. Fascinating for 2 reasons. One, because it's all set in Nottingham, which I did not realise, which is very exciting for us, probably for some of you.
Good lingering shots of the Victoria Centre.
Oh, lovely
traffic
to
lights.
See. Really nice. And what's great to realise is that in how many years since that was made? Like, we're probably getting on for, 25, 30 almost? Almost now has changed. Looks pretty much the same.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's good to see. I was like, there's no TK Maxx there, but other than that,
you wouldn't be able to see it from that angle anyway.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I found it very soothing because it's very, very slow, which is surprising for a 14-minute show. Yeah,
it feels every minute of those 14. It really they do not fly by.
But it's very soothing. And I thought, and just nice that things can get sorted out.
Yeah, it's very heavily narrated.
Yeah, by Lisa Goddard.
Which you very carefully found out the pronunciation of her name moments before this recording.
Pronounce people's names right as best you possibly can. Yeah.
I'd have just called her the Goddard and just let it be at that. But yeah, it's basically, it's a bit like reading like a sort of children's picture book, but they've made it into. Was it a book before?
Well, I don't know, but do you remember? Was it Puddle Lane had like books and tapes attached, and then it would go bing, turn the page.
Oh yeah,
and it felt like every now and again it should say that, and then you turn the page. But yeah, but this particular episode, Karen is the main person because Bernard has lent her the watch for a bit.
I mean, if I was Bernard, I'd have kept it well quiet. Because what we don't know is we've seen episode 1 and then we've seen somewhere deep into season 3. And like, there must be some big reveal where Karen finds out that her mate can stop time.
Yeah. But they are clearly best mates because in episode 1, he's meant to get her like a bracelet for her birthday and it gets run over by a lawnmower. So he stops time and goes and gets her a ray gun that lights up. And she's very happy about that because,
You buried the lead there, I feel, because that's not his only problem, is it? In that first episode where we realise that Bernard has just no time, he's very disorganised young boy.
And his parents' solution is to treat him like a yuppie and give him basically a little diary and
Here's
say,
a
now
file
if
of
you write
facts.
down what time your appointments are, now what have you got on this afternoon? It's like, he's 8 years old. What do you mean, what have you got on this afternoon?
Yeah, I did find that what have you got on this afternoon? Quite a jarring phrase.
I think it was, what appointments have you got? It was so formal.
I've got 3 meetings. My secretary is busting my balls about these. The Johnson account will not get. I can't sort. Do you know what? Just give me a moment, all right? Yeah, I felt like Ben. I felt for him because I was a very disorganized child. I was late for everything all the time. But at no point did I find a magical watch, unfortunately.
Well, you didn't make a rainbow bin wish. That was your problem.
That's true.
Should have made a rainbow bin wish.
Yeah. I think I just didn't have faith that I could literally just wish my problems away. I felt I had to solve them with hard graft.
Yeah, there is that is the message. Like, if you just wish really hard when next to a bin at the end of a rainbow, you don't need to,
I think
organise yourself.
That's the thing that I found quite nice about it, because it was basically saying, for someone like me who is incredibly disorganised, the premise that I took away was them basically saying, there's no way that you can change your nature. You are a disorganised person.
Yes.
Your best hope is magic. The best thing that you can hope for is an intervention at a magical level. Nothing else will work.
Yeah, soz for that.
And I really hope there's no point, there's no point in Bernard's watch where it goes, and the real stopping time was love. Like, there's no bullshit. It's just, he's got a magic watch.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about it, that they didn't really care.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found the thing that I found obviously most distressing was what he uses his power to stop time for. And I'm sure many people have said this. I'm sure this is pretty common among Bernard's watch discourse. So if you this is the 3rd or 4th thing you've watched about Bernard's watch, I'm sorry, it's not a very fresh or hot take. But I will say this: if I had a watch that could stop time, I would be, and I presume it's stopping time globally.
Yeah,
that's what we know.
Everywhere.
There's no area which it sort of stops. I would be doing a lot of things differently. It seems to be a lot of them just getting their homework done.
Yes,
which I don't think I would do. Referring to my notes as well, you'll notice what I've written there.
I'm liking it. It's nice that I can see.
Yeah, you can see. It's just rare that you can see the thought process.
Yeah, I've got mine here. Look, we can.
What I've written at one point there is Hopathon Donkey Sanctuary.
I've got that. Yeah, 24-hour hopathon for the Donkey Sanctuary.
You've got the time period, and that's impressive.
Yeah, that's what Karen was doing, and she needed to get her sponsorship money, but she forgot the sponsorship money, so she had to use the watch to go back into her house and get the sponsorship money. And she also forgot her piano music, and she couldn't find it because it wasn't in the folder where she normally keeps it. It was, of course,
they'd buried it
on the table in the landing area.
The table in the landing area.
Yeah. I don't know why they put it on that. There's like a lamp table on the landing, and that's where the piano music was. Not by the piano.
This is a good point to discuss both of the homes I saw in there. Because obviously when I watch these things now, I'm enjoying like just looking at what a 90s domestic home.
Yes.
No one lives in these houses. And I feel like the set dressing was pretty minimal. There were like no pictures on the... It kind of looked like both of the families in Bernard's watch had been recently moved into rented accommodation.
Oh, there was a picture in the kitchen. There was a picture of a horse, which looked like it came with the frame.
Yes, there was. But in general, it had that real kind of 90s new home vibe. A lot of dark wood.
A lot of dark wood. Yeah.
Dark wood table, dark wood window frames. Yeah. Always that way. Like magnolia on the walls.
A lot of pattern. There was some nice tiles in the kitchen with cherries on and matching very loud cherry pattern curtains. Which was, and then she had a little apron that kind of all went together. I thought that was great. Yeah, it was a very strong 90s palette. Yeah,
strong Midlands 90s palette.
Lovely
I felt overall really lovely work. And I also felt like her in the one with Bernard's parents. It almost seemed to me like they were sort of bizarre parental caricatures that the dad seemed like he was at any moment going to go like that, but never did. And I was like, just lean into it. Come on, if we're going to do this. But yeah, he just seemed like a permanently slightly annoyed man. And also I noticed that when both of the mothers seemed to be stay-at-home mothers.
Yeah.
And the dad just seemed to like be, I'm a businessman. I wear a business suit and I come in from my business. But yeah.
Very, very very 90s vibes.
It was lovely, but I did spend a lot of time, like, for instance, there was a bit where they're going to, as I say, he doesn't do any crime. He goes to a shop and then pays for something, but because he stopped time, he works out how much it costs and then does actually have to put his hand in the till. And I thought, if I was writing this, the moment he put his hand in the till and then got his change out, I would have had him walk towards the door of the shop, just look into the money in his hand and just go, oh, I can just steal whatever I want now.
Yeah, he's a very honest little boy, and he does everything properly apart from doing it outside of time.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's nice.
I'd like to think maybe if we get into season 7, like, Bernard's on some crazy shit by that point. Like, maybe by then he's like stopping time and doing bank heists.
I bet there's got to be some moral thing at some point. 7 seasons.
I hope, like, it would be great if they did a Redux now, with Bernard being like, maybe, what would he be, in his 40s, around there? Well, he's about our age, isn't he?
Our age, I think.
All right, so he's late 20s, really young person.
21 again, are we?
Yeah, he'd just cover the grey. If he was like, I just think if he was like quite jaded now, but then he maybe he'd forgotten he had the watch, or he thought he'd lost the watch, right?
Or he just put it away just because,
Yeah. Okay, this is coming straight off the top of my dome. Okay, this is what I'm saying.
Just vibe with it.
So this is season 8 of Bernard's Watch.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's a movie.
Yeah, all right. Well, okay. So let's say we'll see how it develops.
Okay.
Movies are dead, Miriam. It's going to be a Netflix series. Jeez, we need the money.
All right.
So season 8, Bernard's 39 years old.
Yes.
Right. He's on the horns of a midlife crisis.
Oh, no.
He's started being a doctor, but he got struck off for malpractice.
Hey now. Hey, no.
He's a fictional character that's got nothing to do with David Peachy. Nothing. That is not an allegation.
No.
But I'm just working with what I've got.
I can't believe that he would be, because he's so nice. I think maybe he's just,
Well, you know why he got struck off for malpractice?
A bit bored. Why?
Because he was really late for so many appointments, because he couldn't find the watch anymore. No longer had the ability to stop time. He'd become a doctor, and he every time he was late for operations, he's like, never fills in people's prescriptions. Eventually the stress gets to him.
Disorganized. Maybe he's just been passed over for a promotion because he's a bit disorganized.
Yeah, his life's, he's not falling apart, but it's teetering, and he's wondering what it's all about.
Yeah.
And then he's sat by a bin.
Yep.
Again.
Yep.
And then they give him another watch. And the guy comes back, and he's Ancient, the delivery man, and he's like, you've managed to sit by another rainbow. I mean, it's not legit, but, here you go. You can have another watch. He gets another watch, right? And he's sort of, oh, wow, I've got that watch back that can stop time.
Yes.
And, he'd been through a lot of therapy with him having to deal with that years ago, because he's obviously become, having that mega superpower. And he sort of immediately goes, I can use this for good. But over the course of the 8th season, he gets tempted towards evil. That's what I think.
I like some of what you've said.
You've got notes. I feel like you've got notes.
But what about if he finds the watch again, like the one that he had before, and then he's like, yeah, it was actually, like, it's clearing out the loft or something, and he finds it. He thought he lost it. Okay,
I like where you're going with that.
And I like the therapy idea, but maybe he thought they've kind of convinced him that it didn't actually happen because he was a kid.
Oh, I love it.
Do you know what I mean? Love it. And then they're like, and he's like, it's all true. I am able to do this. And then
sort of a bit like Hook.
Yes.
That same vibe.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
He's a jaded doctor.
Yes.
And then he rediscovers his ability to stop time.
And it repairs. I think a lot of this has legs. And I think, further talks.
Are we getting Peachy in?
I mean, I failed to contact him so far, but
once this is out, you won't be able to ignore it, will we?
We'll just have to write the treatment and see what happens.
The 90s.
And what? I mean, after the lovely kind of sort of sweet world of Bernard's Watch,
Yeah, you could have a little nap after that, couldn't you? It was like a little bedtime story of a show.
It really is. It's got a real gentle vibe to it, which is quite pleasing. I don't know if kids' TV is like that anymore. I think it's quite hectic, isn't it, these days?
Then what did you do when we said we needed to look at kids' shows?
I picked, to me, the only choice, which was I picked Run the Risk. Run the risk. Run the risk.
It can only be said like that.
Can only be said like that. The way to sort of inhale is you run the risk. You've got like as if you're being sort of someone's constricting your airflow.
You're trying to stifle a burp. Yeah, that's part of it.
That's exactly what it is. If you're trying to stifle an inevitable belch after having too much ale, run the risk. Now there's eras of Run the Risk, and I was very cognizant of that. Because Run the Risk has had 3 presenters. The first presenter, I can't remember his name. So therefore, I'm not going to mention it. But the second presenter of Run the Risk is Bobby Davro.
Yeah.
Or should I say, Robert Christopher Nankerville.
Lovely.
Because that is Bobby Davro's real name.
Delightful.
I found that out very recently, and I don't know why, but I'm very pleased with it. I've never heard of anyone called Nankerville before, and I'm baffled as to why you wouldn't choose that as your stage name. Nankerville, it's lovely. Yeah. But yeah, Bobby Davro was the second era of Run the Risk, and then you got Shane Ritchie. And I'm not down on Ritchie's work at all. I think Ritchie was great.
Lovely chap.
To me, Davro's your classic. Peter Simon, the sidekick,
yes,
he was there throughout. He saw 3 hosts of Run the Risk.
It's interesting having sort of 2 hosts in that way, and then a voiceover. Quite a lot of, grown-up men talking in this kids show, but,
So if you're not aware of Run the Risk, it was... and who are you if you're not aware of Run the Risk? It was initially an adjunct on Going Live, right? Or Live and... Going Live, not Live and Kicking. And then it became a show in its own right. But initially it was just like a little segment of that show. But in it, Bobby Davro and Peter Simon and Mitch, the voiceover, are in some kind of hellish, multicoloured amphitheatre. It's got a slight Hunger Games feel to it as well.
Slight?
But rather than, certain death, it's certain gunge.
I mean, you say rather, it still feels like a possibility. I mean, the fall that he took.
Yeah. Peter Simon takes a pretty nasty spill in the episode that we watched.
Honestly, my legs are still stinging a bit from watching that, because he runs over and then jumps over the moat of gunge, and the landing is not good.
I'm not trying to cut you, but I feel like for the listenership, you can't really skip over the term moat of gunge.
Yeah.
It does require a bit more fleshing out.
There was quite an obsession with gunge in the 90s on kids' TV, wasn't there?
I was thinking about this, you're right. Gunge was everywhere on TV in the 90s. Gunge, there was a lot of gunge in the 80s. Don't think there wasn't gunge in the 80s, but the 90s, it was like they were locked into gunge. I think they perfected gunge in the early 90s.
Have we lost it now? Is that because of allergies or something?
I think you won't see people gunged as often. If you remember, on Noel's house party, they used to gunge people on what was arguably adult television.
Constantly. Put them in a weird... Do you know what? I found that absolutely terrifying. They put them in that Perspex sort of foam booth and fill it with gunge. The amount of
and that's
drowning
sort of
bass nightmares.
The thing where it hits the top of their head and then kind of aquaplanes off in a sort of continuous sheet of gunge. When was the last time you saw someone gunged?
No, I don't think I did. I don't think I have for a long time. And I'm quite glad about it.
I was going to say,
heebie-jeebies.
Does it beg the question, should we be gunging people?
No.
Because, we could, in many ways, as we said before this podcast, we started recording, Dave Benson Phillips with Get Your Own Back is arguably the king of gunge.
Yeah.
Only because it was like he made gunge his life. He's a man of gunge. Whereas I feel like Run the Risk, I don't know, there's a lot of gunge.
There's a lot going on in this show.
The very first moment, as soon as the show starts, on the particular video, you get a delightful moment where you get a bit of Jamie Theakston with curtains and Trevor Simon introducing the show. And then straight in with them paddling boats through a moat of gunge.
Yeah, trying to hook ducks in and collect them in the right colour.
Yeah.
It's a lot. There's a lot going on because there's 3 teams: red team, yellow, and blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's 2 people in each team.
They each sit in a power pyramid.
Yes.
Which Davro sort of presides over.
Yeah. But there's a couple of weird things about this because some of the things they say, I'm just looking at my notes because I wrote down some things that I was just slightly unhappy with. Davro's got a dangler.
Davro's dangler is he's got a rope that's got some ivy attached to it that he uses to grab hold of and swing over the moat of Gunge.
Yeah.
But you never really see him do it.
Just see him sort of skip off it. So
I don't remember if Shane Ritchie carried that on.
Did he have to call it his dangler?
Yes, I think he did because he's from that era.
Right. There's a lot of like pantomime-y kind of slightly smutty jokes happening, which for a children's television show seems a little bit odd.
Well, as I think
he tells someone to get knotted at one point.
You seem very shocked by that.
I thought that was a very shocking thing to say.
To say he tells someone to get knotted. Is that offensive?
Off, isn't it? Yeah.
I feel I could tell, you could tell someone to get knotted without it. It's not, is it the same as a swear?
I think it's bordering a swear.
Right, after this, you and me, we're going to wander around an undisclosed area of London and we're going to tell people in a jocular way to get knotted.
I am absolutely not doing that. Absolutely not.
You're embroiled. You're going to be embroiled.
No.
I'm going to see what happens. No. I think I'll be fine. I think they'll go, oh, you scamp.
Absolutely not. Something you're going to get absolutely hit in the face.
What if I do that sort of gurning that Bobby Davro does afterwards?
I don't think it'll help. I don't think you just walk up to someone and say, get knotted. You'll need Bernard's watch to stop time so you can run away. That's what you'll need if you start telling people to get knotted. No way.
I am going to experiment. I think I'm worried that I think that get knotted isn't that bad. But you're telling me it's really bad. I'm wondering where I've calibrated now. I think telling someone to fuck off is quite like jocular fun as well.
But I mean, there was that. It's Davro's dangler telling someone to get knotted, and then for absolutely no reason at all, unless I've missed something, there's a bit where, what's his name, Peter Simon, is holding a rubber duck, and then Bobby's got a string with a sausage at the other end, and he's just twirling it around, and then he drops it. What was that? What even was that? Why? What was even happening?
I can explain.
Sorry, I've gone shrill. I'm sorry.
That was about throughout the show, and obviously there's a theme that they're having a royal visit to the studio of Run the Risk.
Yes.
That's how they're hanging the gags, right?
Yeah.
And then that bit is when he says we're going to do some falconry because that's associated with royalty. And he does that by swinging a sausage on a string, and he has a rubber duck to represent the bird.
I can see that you know that what you're saying doesn't work.
I'm just trying to straight face it out.
I mean,
what I think happens is that they make like a lot of these in a day, and then they've decided that they need someone in there, someone like Bobby Davro, someone like Peter Simon, someone like Mitch, whoever Mitch is. They need them to just keep it going. They don't know what's going to happen. So keep it going, keep the energy going, keep saying things, keep doing stuff. And I think eventually you just go, I don't know, something about there being a royal visit. I can put on a pair of ears and do my Prince Charles impression. That'll be all right, won't it? It's only kids. See you in the pub after. I feel like there's a little bit of that.
But there's, the jokes just were quite bizarre. But yeah. But I mean, I appreciate that you brought Run the Risk, because as much as I need to have a little, I mean, we were going to record this like sat at the table, and I was like, no, I need to stay on the comfy sofa where I feel safe because I've just watched Run the Risk. Because
it is an explosion of colour, drama, sound,
gunge, screams.
And
strobe lighting and giant penguins. It's absolutely mad. Just prepare yourself. If you're going to watch it, do watch it. But wow.
Yeah. And the question I would like, perhaps I should leave you with this question, is obviously now you can go and do the Crystal Maze experience in real life.
Yes.
I've tried to book it. So many people I know have tried to book it.
We nearly went, I think. But we had to cancel it because of COVID.
Thanks, COVID-19. Thanks. But yeah, so would you rather, no, not would you rather, because obviously you're going to say Crystal Maze, but do you think there's a market for people doing Run the Risk?
You know what? I know I've slightly trash talked it because it is really rowdy and shouty. But I was watching it and being like, wait, so there's like squishy sort of platforms that move and little games that are quite easy to understand and quiz questions that I can answer because they're not too difficult. Yes, I want to have a go. Like, that sounds great fun.
I think it'd be perfect.
Horribly dangerous, but I did want to have a go. And there's a bit where they have to like climb up the slide while there's loads of gunge falling. And I feel like the sense of achievement that kid that actually made it up there to launch the flag and looked a little bit like he was about to get electrocuted. But anyway, because the pyrotechnics all went off.
Yeah, in Run the Risk,
it
ends with quite an intense race.
And then strobe lighting while everyone's falling in gunshot. It looks so unbelievably dangerous. But
so what I'm saying is,
I would definitely have a go.
Imagine that, but on like a hen night or a stag night.
Yes.
And you've got a bit of, martini confidence. So you're in the penguin suit, you're running over the pool of gunge. I think it'd be brilliant.
I don't know if I'd want to drink beforehand. I'll be honest with you. But I'd want to go out partying. I feel like I'm so pumped up after that. Then going out for a disco dance afterwards would be spectacular.
That would be
I think
nice.
maybe have some sugary before I went in.
Yeah, I mean, in my conception of it, like when you're halfway around, there's like a table of shots that you've got to do.
I think there's enough. Like, after seeing what happened to his ankle, I swear he was trying to interview him with his ankle just hanging off.
Yeah, I wonder if
then I don't think you need to introduce alcoholic beverages into that situation.
That's true.
That's an A&E job.
I'm pretty sure the reason why they changed host 3 times was because they burnt him out. They just knackered him.
Yeah.
And then I think that the reason Peter Simon just stayed is because he's just an absolute trooper. I reckon Peter Simon had a laundry list of injuries after the end of his Run the Risk career. As you like a professional boxer can say, I torn my what not, that replaced, there's a pin in my whatever.
Yeah.
I reckon he had hundreds. I reckon an X-ray of Peter Simon looks like one of those, armatures that you use to draw. It's just pins everywhere, and then just a skeleton sort of there, for show.
What a hero! And talking kids show legends,
smooth,
wasn't it?
Very smooth, almost too smooth.
We've got a pre-recorded section which we're gonna cut to now. Oh, I say we, like Neil's gonna have to do something really complicated that I don't understand.
If he's not able to, should we do the wibbles?
Oh
for him?
Doodly-doo, doodly-doo. The 90s. The 90s. The 90s. Sam, I've brought a friend.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I've brought a friend to the podcast.
You trying to tell me something? You brought? Is this mean like? Do you want me to maybe go?
No.
Just hang out with your mate, or
but because we're talking about 90s.
Don't be a third wheel or a cabbage here.
Well, you might be. We're going to be talking about 90s kids TV.
Yes.
And my friend was in quite a lot of it. He is a performer, actor, director, voice artist, multi-talented man of mystery. It's Jeremy Stockwell. Jeremy Stockwell's on the podcast.
Hello.
I instinctively applauded there, Jeremy. I'm not sure why.
Well,
just your presence makes me...
I have that effect on people. I give them the clap, which is very good. They're just one of the...
There's the magic, and there's the magic.
Hello.
Thank you so
for
much.
having me on.
Thank you so much for indulging this nonsense. That's what I always say when people come on. I'm like, I do appreciate that this is very silly, and for you to give up as a professional gentleman any amount of your time to this is a real boon. So thank you so much for doing that.
Well, I've heard the first series and enjoyed it very much. It was good. Yeah, no, it was fine. It is a joy. What else would I be doing on this Sunday morning? I don't know.
Can we clip all of the positive things that Jeremy just said, and we'll use them as reviews to bolster this podcast going forward? He said it was fine. It's fine, Jeremy Stockwell. That would be good on the front of it. And a billboard. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Oh, Lord.
I think we discussed this slightly before we started, but I am quite. Usually in this podcast, we dress up a little bit, or we for some reason started this thing of dressing up, and now we can't stop.
You started it.
I did start it.
You
I was trying
started.
to abdicate responsibility for it, but it was me. And I thought this morning, I was like, oh, mate, what do I dress as for this? And I thought it'd be weird if I dressed as Jeremy. But I would say, Jeremy, you are a man with a signature look. I could dress as you if I wished to. You've got a very recognisable sartorial set of choices, which I always love to see.
Very kind of you to say so. Thank you very much. No, I didn't know. Most of my stuff I've had years, or I get in a second. We don't have second-hand shops over here in Germany, or I've nicked it from some play I was in or something. I don't know quite how best to describe it, but there we are. Well, there was a time when older gentlemen in the 70s, because I grew up in the 60s, you see, but in the 60s and 70s, you could go anywhere and get really classy stuff from a former time, you know?
Yeah.
And so I dressed like an old gentleman, and I was about 18. And like some Edwardian fop. But as I got older, as was pointed out to me not so long ago, as I got older, I sort of grew into the age of my clothes. So it's kind of like wearing old man clothes, being an old man. So there's no irony there at all.
Yeah, what can you do? Can you keep going back, maybe, or you could like eventually you sort of end up dressing like you're in the 17th century. Like I want you to see you in a ruff, maybe, or something. That would be nice.
You could rock a ruff for sure.
Trunks and hose. Joe, if you could bring the codpiece back just into normal.
I'm wearing one now. I'm wearing one now. Absolutely right. Never leave home without one.
Well, one of the reasons that as we've said, we're talking about 90s kids TV. And when I was just going through, I mean, I might as well get it out of the way, because I wanted to say, as I was looking through the things that you had appeared in the 90s, the one that struck me more than anything, Jeremy, was I suddenly went, wait, Finders Keepers, which was the only show, like, you know, the sort of televisual line between CITV kids and CBBC kids, which was a big thing in the 90s for some reason. It was like, you're only allowed to do one. But Finders Keepers was the one that would lure us over as CBBC kids. Because we were like, they trash a house. It's brilliant. Neil Buchanan's on it. And then I suddenly watched it back yesterday and I went, Jeremy, the voice of the house. This is Jeremy. The mysterious man on Finders Keepers.
That's my secret's out. My secret's out. No, well, that was curious because I did some corporate video or other, and the producer on that said, "Oh, I'm doing this series. Come and do it." So, and they knew I did voices because I did a hell of a lot of radio and impressions and whatnot. And could I do it? So I met with Neil. Okay, guys, loads of prizes to play for. So let's raid some rooms, and we'd do this thing. And it was basically a house, two teams of two, the yellow team, the green team, and they'd trash a house looking for clues, and they get prizes at the end. So I said, well, look, you know, what do you want me to do? And they said, well, I sort of came in as a voiceover and then started to comment on the writing of it. So I was allowed to sort of anglicize it a little bit and put in lots of gags. And gag man is write gags for Neil. He's very easy to. Anything Neil Buchanan says is, you know, he turns it and he presents it well. And he makes it funny. So we ended up doing, I'm not sure, something like 6 or 7 series. Quite a lot it went on through the 90s. And so, I sort of wrote myself into Jeremy's Joker. So I'd come and say, well, Neil, blah, 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 blah. It didn't really matter what I said, you know. But what I was good at, it turned out, was speaking to a length of time. I've got 30 seconds to say what the prizes were, or I've got 20 seconds to introduce both teams. So I go and write a little bit, you know, where'd you come from? What's your intro? You know, Sam has a pet dog. His favorite color is purple. And, just any old trash, and they go, hey, it's very good, yeah, lovely. So that, you know, so it was good fun to do, and good fun working with Neil. But there was a bit of a thing because in the latter series, 2 kids somewhere in they wrecked their house in real life doing
I remember this happening, yeah.
And I heard my voice on the news, and it was playing to play Finders Keepers. And then my brother, by the way, did the music for it. He did a version of, he didn't write the theme, he did a version of the theme and stings for it and whatnot. So he did that. That's my brother Tim. And so these kids really wrecked a house, and it was on the news. Questions were raised in Parliament. Would our children be watching this stuff? And they really, really wrecked a room. But mind you, we went on and did two more series.
My goodness!
So it didn't stop us.
Because I remember watching one where they would say that. I think after that happened, there was like a very strong disclaimer by Neil Buchanan at the beginning. Like, don't do this
at home. Neil, on the first one we did, all this confetti comes out. It's just really crazy. It's a bit sort of anarchy, really. And keep out of mum and dad's bedroom. And then Neil's talking. And the cut. What is it, Neil? And he'd swallowed some confetti. And he came in and he said in the next day he came in, because we recorded the series like in a week or so. We did 2 a day. So the guys had to rebuild the set, get it all nice, vacuum it all up, make it all good, hide the price. 2 a day. And there was live audience cheering. Hooray. And we had this brilliant warm-up man. And he was just extraordinary. That he Andrew Eborn, a member of the Magic Circle, warm-up man, just great rapport with the kids. He's a top showbiz lawyer, and he's a presenter now on the telly. And he, I think last year in lockdown, he interviewed loads of people. He interviewed me, so it brought up lots of these memories. Andrew Eborn, Octopus TV, I think is one of his interests. But no, he was just a brilliant warm-up man. I think we needed that, really.
Watching it, my first thought was, I thought, Neil Buchanan just looks like a man just alone. I'm sure there was obviously lots of different people, but the way it reads, you're like, Neil is there and he's just surrounded by children just ready to destroy. Because the audience are really amped up and all the kids there are really amped up. And I was like, is Neil going to be okay? What if they turn? What if has Neil got a hose or something he can deploy to just get him out the building?
Well, Neil was brilliant because I mean, he's a consummate professional. My God, he's really brilliant at what he does. Occasionally, in the latter series, we'd introduce celebs, and sometimes I get their name a bit wrong because I don't have a telly. I don't really know about popular culture. We had Ant and Dec on, and they were really, really great, and they were just so getting in there with the kids, getting ripping things apart and getting stuck in. And Neil's job was as much to control the guests as it was to control the kids sometimes. But an absolute professional, very, very good.
Well, no, I think what I really realise as well is that obviously you are a consummate voiceover professional, but your ability to make any piece of 90s consumer electronics sound like the most exciting thing that could possibly be given to a human being.
Well, you've won a weekend away in, and it would be some little gallery or some little, I don't know, you'd won a Noughts and Crosses set. You've won some spoons. You just have to big up these things. I mean, kids like them though. You get your Finders Keepers pen and your Finders Keepers t-shirt.
Oh yeah,
the set was amazing. I was so tempted to just go on eBay and be like, is there any of that left? Because that looks great. They got one for today.
I might have a t-shirt I can send you. I've got a green t-shirt.
I had a few questions about this because I wondered, especially because this is a unique opportunity to ask somebody who is actually there. Where were you when they were filming these? Because you're the voice of kind of God, making everyone even more excited than I had to have a lie down after I watched that episode because it's so high energy, it's unbelievable. But where are you sat when you're doing that?
Well, we shot it. Well, we did some in Scotland later on, but we shot it most of the series in Maidstone, down at the TV studios down there, and then in there there's. We used quite a big studio to get the audience and the set in, and it was sort of mega. And then, you go back there, and then you go up the stairs, and there's a gallery where the producer sits, and there's all the monitors up there. And then behind the gallery, so I'm sitting in a little soundproof booth behind the gallery, so I can see the gallery, I can see the director, and I just click a button when my turn came. And now I go over to Jeremy for the prizes. Oh well, Neil, blah 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 blah. So just sitting behind the director in a little soundproof booth.
Nice.
Oh, nice. See, I feel like that's why I imagine that you're in some kind of very secure bunker, safe from the chaos. Just
safe
just
from the
there.
silly string.
Well, do you know what it's like, when you get into these studios and everything's a little bit like this, and so there's no real other sound going on. And then when I go onto the floor, or Andrew had an idea to introduce Neil and to introduce me, so you go in front and you wave at the kids and hooray, like this. And but it was mayhem. It was that Andrew Eborn, the woman, had to control, and obviously, the man's hugely wonderful, talented at that, many things. And then there's Neil, who's fronting the piece, but they have to float through it. They have to glide through it. Andrew wasn't on screen, but obviously Neil was. But I could go back to my little bunker, to my little soundproof booth, and I could just breathe or meditate or something. Then the green light comes in. They say, okay, off you go. And then I just have to listen to what's going on. But if I want, I can switch off and go, just have a cup of tea, just sit here. But it was mayhem. It really was mayhem. And I'm surprised it lasted so long, really. It was extraordinary. It was lovely to write for it, lovely to write, to angle it, like I say, to make it, because it's an original American idea, but to make it more English. There were other writers on it, and gradually these other I was one of them, and then gradually they fell off, and I ended up sort of writing the jokes, really, and the links and whatnot. Mind you, Neil often came up with some himself, which is brilliant. But it was a joy to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd kind of forgotten. I'd remembered it sort of vaguely, and then when I watched it, it was like suddenly all the details got filled back in, because I was like, oh yes, no, I do remember this. But it was great. But I say the thing that I kept, exactly to your point, there's really a palpable sense that in that studio is like an absolutely terrifying environment. Because there's nothing, if you lose control of, like, if you're in front of a classroom or something and you lose control of like 20 kids, then that is a terrifying feeling, to be like that outnumbered, and also like I'm losing them. But for it to be that many kids for that long, and also you're kind of going, put your helmets on and trash that kitchen, and then pull that back to a position of authority and order.
Well, mostly that was Neil on the floor, really, and he's very good at that. But he did have to find that balance between mayhem, spontaneity, craziness, and just listen and do what we said. Health and safety was crazy. I mean, we obviously, even then, we had to obey health and safety. But yeah, it was quite a... You're right. It was a balance. It was a fine balance. And people haven't forgotten it. There's this thing now called Yogscast with Simon and Lewis.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And
I'm vaguely aware of this. Yeah,
my dear son, Felix, he is a bit of a fan of that, and as is my older lad as well, Jules. And they mentioned Finders Keepers last year or year before, or he heard it. And I mentioned, and there's me again doing the thing. And my son said, did you do this program called Finders Keepers? Yes, I did. Basking in the glory of how many years ago? It's crazy.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you as well, to round off the Finders Keepers piece, was have you ever, I mean, I would say if I was in your position and I was to sort of look at a group of kind of millennials stroke sort of the tail end of Gen X, and just think it's worth a go, me just playing a Jeremy's Joker to see if I get an instant cut. What? That's what I do every day.
Well, no, of course you would. But I wouldn't. No, it's kind of curious, because you know what it's like. You do a job, and then that's a gig, and you move on, and then something else happens. But I'm always astounded. Teaching at RADA, clown and acting and moving on over the years. This lad came up and said, "You don't remember me, but I was on Finders Keepers. I was one of the kids."
Well, yeah, because it's got to be for them. I mean, that's you're doing that that's a huge memory that they'll never forget. Because I mean, you're on back then, especially being on telly.
Being on telly once a week, they'd sit down. They'd just watch it, sit down. Well, you couldn't get it online. They didn't have that then. And you'd sit down and you'd watch it once a week.
Yeah, that post school television situation was very important. The long hours between returning from school and dinner were they're crucial for children.
It's all gone now. Everyone's in their room on their little tablet or something, and that's what it is. Yeah.
They're all listening to 90s-based podcasts. That's what all the kids are doing, and it's
so they jolly well should be.
They can't because we swear in it occasionally.
Bum. It's very odd though, because I haven't done that much live telly, but when I did some live telly, there is a huge part of you that just wants to swear or to do something rude. I did this thing on Richard and Judy. That wasn't in the 90s. That was later on a little bit.
It's inadmissible. No, it's fine.
But it was live, and I go, oh my gosh, I'm sitting there live. It's quite a funny thing to do live.
I've always thought that is it like, I presumed it's a natural human reaction, but then I've sort of said this to people, it sort of gets about a 50-50 of going, if you're specifically told not to do something and the stakes are quite high, is that the only thing you can then think about doing to the point you're like, oh my God, I am going to do it. And I am that person 100%. And some people I've said that to, they go, I don't know what you mean.
No, I'm with you. I remember walking on a very high place with my eldest son when he was quite young. And he said, and we were looking down and it was okay. He said, Dad, do you sometimes get the idea that you may as well just leap off? Because you don't, you mustn't. You kind of, I said, do you know what? I do get that. I do. It's very odd, isn't it?
I don't trust anybody who doesn't think, like, because I always think that is the most normal thing in the world to just like, it's because it's part of just some weird sensation seeking, part of the fact that you can't, and part of the fact that you're now imagining it happening, that you're like, I might actually do it. I'm going to actually do it. And then of course you're never going to do it. But I'm terrible for that. Anything that I'm told, especially it's my career is so flourishing. If I'm ever told not to say anything in a meeting, that's all I can think is like, bring it up, say it, say the thing you're not supposed to say.
But in a way, that's that little bit of devilment in us, I think, is really important. That little bit of, you mustn't laugh at Granny's funeral, or be a good boy at school, be a good girl at school. Oh my God! And by dint of trying, then we don't succeed. We kind of, oh gosh, I'm trying. Whereas if it's sort of easy, it's like I say, I've got nothing planned, so nothing can go wrong. To quote Spike Milligan, just you don't plan anything, so it just then flows, and it's sort of okay. But I like the fact that we have a sort of idea of what's socially acceptable. That's a quite important thing. But then to flirt with the edge of that. Everyone's got their boundary, but just to flirt to the edge of the boundary is fantastic.
Yeah, I find the wonderful thing about living in the Republic of Brighton and Hove is that it's sort of like as you walk along the seafront, it's like you go from Hove into Brighton proper, and then just like social mores just start to melt away until you're in Kemp Town, and it's just like people are wearing hot pants, and it's all
everything.
Fine. No one cares.
I think you have to wear hot pants in Kemp Town. In Kemp,
yeah. Well, they issue you with a pair, either gold or silver, when you first move.
I'm a gold lame.
Ask you politely to wear them whenever you're within the city limits, which I would usually do. Yeah,
me too, pal. Oh God, yes.
Well, I was going to ask you. Okay, well, I think we've said as much as I can say about Finders Keepers, but I'm just trying to remind myself of the other stuff that you got up to. That's the thing. We want to be clear here that we're not. Jeremy has a wide range of interests. And he's not literally all he's ever done is been in some kids' TV in the 1990s, but you were in some kids' TV in the 1990s, and
certainly was. Yeah,
should be celebrated in and of itself. So I believe you were in the television program Spats, which I sort of remember, but sort of like vaguely remember. I remember it myself because it was really uncommon, not super uncommon, but like you didn't get many programs for kids that had people that weren't white in them as main characters. Was fairly not. This was like 1991, and I remember that program had Vaz Blackwood in it.
Yeah,
and I was just like, because obviously he's gone on to sort of, and he's in a lot of things, and it was one of those shows where we were just like, oh, okay, somebody looks a bit like me. So that was nice.
Yeah, and I think Sam was in it. Sam Janus was her name.
Yeah,
she was in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was in there maybe twice. I don't know too much about it. It was a gig. It wasn't like Gophers or Wizadora or Finders Keepers, which are series. But that was a gig. But I think I did it. I think I had 2, so I don't know whether that's still a gig. But I just guessed it as some idiot going in. Hi, can I have a beef burger, please? Thank you very much. And then I make some funny remark, and then go, and then they look. Who's another idiot? So that's that's what Spats was. I don't know, because like I say, I've never really haven't had a TV for a long time. So they'd say, come and do this series, or come and be in that, or come and look at this. I don't know what's going on. I just turn up and do my shtick.
I think you're much more of sort of the theatrical tradition, right? That's just how I generally think of things as a musician, where I just go, well, I'll just go. The people in the room will see it, and then that's done. I don't need to think about that anymore. Obviously, you sort of like try and do it. Not like you don't care. Obviously, the idea that it's being recorded and can be retrieved and then will be shown elsewhere. I'm just like, I just can't think about that. That's just not something I need to worry about. So.
Well, as I say to actors sometimes, what other people think of your acting is absolutely nothing to do with you. That's not my business. What they think of the acting or the writing or whatever it is, it's nothing really to do with me. And I think in a way that's better, because if I was trying to be good at it or be successful at it even, then I probably wouldn't be. But the fact one has to play it rather than work it. You're in a play. If an actor, you're in a play, so you play. You don't work. And we're fortunate, I suppose, enough to play. But certainly something like Spats or Fantasy or Get the Picture. Or Get the Picture, I did write a lot of questions for that series. But Spats was something I gigged in, and it was nice, and they were very sweet. You go into a series that people are doing, and either you were sort of mostly sort of accepted into that for a couple of episodes, or one episode even sometimes, and then. But you're not part of that gang, but you can observe it and have a little laugh and whatnot. It was fun. Yeah, that was fun. It was sort of over before it started, and my investment in it was just for the day. My investment was just for the day. Where's my check? Thanks very much. Goodbye. Next thing, But I gather it was quite a successful series. Yeah,
it seemed to run for quite a long time. That was the one that I was sort of like, it was because I was sort of looking through the stuff and went, oh God, I do remember this. And when I watched it again, I was like, wow, this is all sort of flooding back. Like I have a memory of watching this. And then when I watched Teabag as well, I was just like, oh wow, I remember this.
Well, Teabag was interesting because although again that was just one episode. I can't remember. I really can't remember. But I was asked to go in and play a Scottish guy who is sort of trying to sell trinkets and badges and whatnot. And there's this young, lovely kids in it. I forget even the names of them. Although I think the girl in it was quite successful. She was on Strictly. She was on EastEnders. Yeah. I've forgotten the names. Please excuse me. I really don't know. But they were just sweet kids. And I'd do impressions or little bits of magic tricks between takes. And we'd have a laugh. They're very sweet people.
Well, I think that was one of the most psychedelic television programs that persisted into the I remember watching it, just being, even at the time, going, I literally, anything could happen next in this. The through line of what could and could not happen in any of those episodes was like anything could. It
was weird. It really. I mean, even.
That's a 90s thing, that everything was a little bit peculiar. I mean, Spats just seemed to be a kind of soap opera for kids, which just seemed really. So do you watch this and then you go on to like El Dorado and then EastEnders? Like, what's the kind of plan? But then, I think it was a lot of weirdness and a lot of things that were quite scary, even if they didn't mean to be. Like, I thought some of the puppets and stuff, because you've worked on quite a few shows with puppets in, and
I did.
They're quite I think they're quite frightening, but I guess,
I think you're absolutely right. Looking back, well, there was one I did again. There was a series called Bug Alert, and you've got to be careful how you say that. bug alert. And a dear friend of mine at the time, a lovely guy called Francis Wright, was puppet master on that, as he was on many things. A just brilliant fellow. And I went in, but all these bugs having conversations with each other, and it's surreal, but bugs, looking up, saying things direct to camera, or little bits going on. That was pretty damn weird.
I think there was definitely a period in the, I think the 90s and probably the 80s as well as a little bit, where people were a lot bit more comfortable with the grotesque in kids TV. Like we sort of lent into it a little bit, like anything kind of sort of faintly disgusting, but in a sort of, not in a horrendous way, but sort of grotesque puppets, quite aggressive stuff seemed to be sort of more, which I think is more in keeping with the kind of thing. I mean, most really classic children's literature has got a level of darkness and grotesquerie to it, which sort of hooks you in. And I think people are not so happy to do that. And the thing about puppets is it's sort of, you've got any sort of uncanniness in terms of the way you manipulate a puppet sort of instantly puts it into that potentially grotesque world. And I remember, obviously, a good friend of yours, we were looking at that show Dizzy Heights. I've forgotten the chap's name now, who runs it's a friend of yours. He runs Purple Monster, and he was in Dizzy Heights, which had terribly grotesque puppets in it, which I think even at the time gave me faint nightmares.
That's my dear old mate Alan Heap.
Yes, that's the fellow.
He's a joy. We a mutual friend here, Ben Benison, who was the mime on Vision On. You probably don't remember that, but Ben Benison, okay, lad, he's the mime on Vision On. Come on, lad. We were friends with him, and Alan. We went to a sort of celebration of Ben's life. But Alan and I sometimes have a little conversation on LinkedIn or something like that, and we spoke a couple of weeks ago. Actually, he's such a dear fellow. He's doing a whole bunch of other stuff and using, because the skills we have, you can use them in different forms. And so he works with business people on coaching, and he gives presentations now in a multimedia form. So you don't actually have to go there, but he's got a studio. It's wonderfully high tech and wonderful. Not like the sets we worked on.
That's the thing I was going to say. The first time I met him, I was sort of like, I think I said this to you straight after, Miriam, because I was around at your house where we were having a discussion on Zoom, just because this was in the time of plague, which is still in obviously now. And I had said what did afterwards? I said, oh, they're very nice people, but I did spend the entire time looking at Alan Heap, going like, where do I know you from? Where do I know you from? I can't ask. It's too long now. It's going to be weird if I say anything. And I was like, as soon as this conversation's over, I will have to Google him. And then I Googled him. I was like, oh, he was in Dizzy Heights. Of course he was. And then I found myself in a very weird situation of watching him give a very professional presentation about what he does in business now, and then immediately watching him clowning around in Dizzy Heights in like 1993. Well, it's lovely juxtaposition.
Well, it is, but he's the first to say these are transferable skills.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And he's sublimely good. Lovely. It was Heap and Wall, a double act.
Yes, yeah.
And they were just so funny and good together, But it's great that Alan's doing what he's doing and is so successful at it. My God, yes.
Can I bring you back to the puppets on Wizadora, please? And can you talk us through that for us?
Wizadora, or my involvement in Wizadora, came out of another thing I did before that called Gophers, which we may or may not come onto. But Wizadora was wonderful in that it was Wendy van der Planck played this rather jolly wizard in her kitchen, and her friends were all the things in the kitchen. It was a computer, a telephone, very old fish, which was in a fish tank, and there were some drawer people called Top, Sticky, and Bottom.
Yes,
and there was Handel, who was a coat hanger. Again, Francis Wright, this incredible puppeteer, very good actor, all round good egg generally. But he was puppet master on that, and dear Phil Eason, who sadly departed this life last year, a great puppet maker, an artist, an actor, and putting it all into puppets, and wonderful. And these guys did things for Disney. They did things for Muppets, Never Ending Story, and all these wonderful big movies. That film with Bowie, I forget what it's called, puppet based. There you go. Yeah. So these guys were in that, and here I am on a TV series with them, and a wonderful, wonderful woman called Vicky Willing, who's an actor, but she's also now a playwright, and she did a show. She did a play, which is on, I think, the Omnibus. I don't know whether it's still on there, but she's a playwright now at Omnibus. She wrote the thing, which was on an Omnibus theatre in London. But all these wonderfully talented people, Mike Bayliss, and all sorts of people. But it was a joy to do that, and I got in on that. One, because I can do voices and impressions and whatnot. And two, because I did this program before called Gophers, when I was introduced to puppeteering. And because I'm a mime, it's about weight, it's about focus, it's about a hell of other things. But I had a crash course in it, really, from Francis Wright on set. So I picked a lot of it up there. So getting back to Wizadora, I think it was 1991, we did the first series of that. And all her friends, some of whom are puppets, some of whom aren't. The great Brian Murphy from George and Mildred, this wonderful actor, Brian Murphy. And it was such a delight to work with. But he was in Joan Littlewood's theatre, Oh, What a Lovely War, Stratford East, a real dyed-in-the-wool proper actor, and his comic timing was just fun. You just watch him, lift my hand, had my hand up a fish's bum doing blah blah blah, very old fish, and he's coming and he'll say something to me, but his timing was so immaculate. I learned a lot just watching him and watching the others. I picked up a lot, So I was never really a puppeteer. I was a bit of a phony, but like Groucho Marx, I would never join a club that would have me as a member. So, it was a lovely idea. A little witch in her kitchen, and all this crazy stuff would go on. To be part of that was a great joy, really.
It's so surreal. I just remember the phone calling herself, her own hand coming out to lift the receiver off her own head and make a call. And I just find that really weird. I just can't.
It was bizarre. It was. It was curious things about that. We had a lovely guy. I think his name was David Crozier, as far as I remember. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. But he was the director and producer and whatnot of it. And dear Phyllis and Philippisa would make the puppets. And you'd have these incredible puppeteers, the ones I mentioned, and others whom I've forgotten some names, excuse me. And then I was called on to rewrite little gags and be sort of script doctor on it a little bit. So that was great fun to do, to write gags and write little improve on scenes and whatnot. And then I think the director couldn't do it. Another director was called in. It was a lovely chap, but we never got any rehearsals done. And so we'd have cups of tea, or we'd have another tea break from stuff that we hadn't been rehearsing. We'd have a tea break, and there'd be stories told, and time was getting on. We hadn't rehearsed anything. And then the last day of that block of script reading and figuring out where we were going to be in the staging, he didn't turn up. The director didn't turn. This isn't David. This isn't the other guy who replaced him. He didn't turn up. We sat around, what's going on? And the whole day passed and not a word. And it turned out that he'd had some sort of breakdown or something. I don't even remember the chap's name, or if I did remember it, I wouldn't say it. And then on the Monday, they said, come in. There's going to be a new director. And it happened to be a new director who'd done a lot of comedy. He worked with the Absolutely team from their comedy thing, and Murray and John and Pete and all that lot, Gordon. And so I kind of vaguely knew them from comedy, and my friend Gordon Wilson. And so he came in and snap. He just put us through our paces and just did it. And we thought, wow, this was really quite nice that you could just pick up the pieces, bring it all together, boom. And then it worked very well. And that pace of work, in kids TV, I really like the pace that you do it quickly, you turn it around, but you can get great subtleties out of it, or introduce little funny things. One of there were some crows in it, and one was a little bit depressed, and so I decided to do it in this way, and have a bit of Lennon-like, for the crow. I was able to get Ken Campbell in for some little turnip. or something, hey. So I was able to bring in there's top, sticky, and bottom. I got to go, as we all did, of playing these characters. Bottom, there's cloud, or like a bit like Eccles from the Goons, which I think Spike nicked off Goofy from Disney. So I kind of thought, well, I'm nicking it again off you. And sticky, this kind of way of speaking, with his all this saliva coming out of the place over here. And top, I can't do it. I couldn't do top terribly well. It was a bit like Aid Edmonds or something doing something. But so we were all cramped in under tables with our hands up Phil Easton's beautifully crafted puppets. And because I'm left-handed, they're all sort of made right-handed. So sometimes I was crouching under tables, wiggling it like this. It was fun. But like I say, I was working with very skilled puppeteers. I was confident and capable and good at the voices, and I sort of winged it with the puppetry, But it was fun to do. And again, I think we did 4 or 5 series of that. It was great.
I find whenever you meet, like I've not met, like I said, like whenever you meet puppeteers, like I meet them all the time. I don't, but when you do meet them, it's puppeteers. And what do you call those? I always get this wrong. The people who just specifically play animals. You often come across them in pantos. People who are very good at that.
They do skin work.
That's the one. And
we call it skin work, lad. I think you're right.
And when I first met those people, I've come into contact with people every so often when I've been in stuff, and you just go, what are we it's such a rarefied and a sort of little profession area, and you think like it's one of those things where people don't really appreciate ever, unless they're sort of in it, how much goes into being good at that. Because I think they just sort of assume that it's not as there's so much more complexity than I think people imagine goes into just getting that performance to look quite natural. Because if you sort of like, you can't just manipulate a puppet and give it a character without sort of being incredibly skilled at that. I've always thought like, God, it's so tricky, and it doesn't seem to have attached to it the kind of requisite respect that it should.
Well, I mean,
but I always think, wow, whenever I see people doing it, because I'm like, I can't do that.
Well, you're absolutely bang on. You're absolutely right when you say that. And I learned the hard way that I'm claustrophobic.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I'd landed this role in Gophers, I suppose, if you wanted to talk about. That's where I first did that.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, 1988 or something, 89.
We'll allow it, Jeremy. I mean, we should, strictly speaking, that should be cast from the series.
It ran into the 90s, so we're all right. We just
That's
can't
acceptable
talk,
then.
It did run into the 90s. That's very true. Well, actually, in 88, 89, I think I was probably at the National in Ken Campbell's company. So it might have been 89, 90. So there we are. We've squeezed in under the door.
Excellent.
But that was being in a skin. And they said I had to go and audition. And I did some funny voices and some impressions. And because of the movement and the mime, they said, well, that's very good. Do you want to do this series? And I thought, okay. So we had to go up to Newcastle to do the series. And we rehearsed there. We rehearsed in London and went up there. Wonderful Nick Willing, son of Paul Orrego, the wonderful Portuguese artist. He was incredible, direct, full of enthusiasm and energy to get us all fired up. Lovely people. And again, Francis Wright. Lou Hirsch did some voices in it. I don't think he did any puppetry. He did Baby Herman on Who Killed Roger Rabbit, if you remember that movie.
Yes, I do.
So Lou Hirsch is like this. He's got these wonderful characters. So basically, it's a family of rabbits and a family of gophers that move next to each other in some little village somewhere in some parallel reality. And the English rabbit is Francis Wright doing his wonderful voice, but he also does the puppets. But there's someone in the skin, Fred in the skin, and we've got animatronics. So basically, we've got a console, rather like flying an airplane. You move this, you move that, and the mouth of the head of this rabbit or gopher or wombat. In my case, I was moving. I was doing a kind of Australian accent like this, and being able to manipulate this kind of puppet, the mouth and the ears and the eyes of the person in the skin. And it was an incredible 3D live action cartoon. That's how it was billed to me.
Wow.
With animatronic headsets, people in skin zipped up. And I was playing Lillian because I was quite lithe in those days. And so I was playing this woman, a bit like old Mother Riley, which I guess you guys haven't heard of, but this kind of rather camp American woman. Someone else was doing the voice. So I had a headpiece in and I was moving to the voice that was coming into my headpiece. I mean, it was an incredibly complex system there. You've got puppetry, you've got animatronics, you've got people in skins, you've got voiceover artists, and they're this wonderful set. And you'd look at it and it just looked like cottages, and people ever painted and created this set in the woodlands. There's goodies, there's baddies, there's these two warring neighbors, the very frightfully upper class rabbits, and then you got the guys who are from America and the gophers. It was extraordinary, really. I think we only did one series, and it was quite a long series, as I remember, and some glorious people in it. And it was such fun. Sue Scott Davidson, we all had Sue's now a producer. She produced, I think, The Railway Children. It was one of her hits. She's done many big name producer. But it was incredible. When we were first in rehearsal, I had these black animal-like contact lenses, which gave me tunnel vision. And then you're in the suit, so you're zipped up at the back and you can't really get out of it. And I remember rehearsing thinking, my God, my heart was going fast. I was sweating, but I was thinking of the money. And we were paid quite well because it's sold all over the place. I think it's sold in America as well. Yeah. So I did it. I had to do it. I said, okay, I'll do it, And it was good because I had this new flat in Blackheath at the time, and I wanted to furnish it. So I was going, let's do that then, So we did it. It was fun. It was good fun to do.
I mean, how did you kind of come down from climbing out of that kind of suit? How did you sort of chill out and kind of relax after that? And was there a kind of nice, if the sets were so beautiful, was there a nice glamorous green room? How showbiz is 90s kids TVs? That's what I want to know.
You know the answer to that.
Do they give you snacks and champagne?
Oh, well, no, not really. It's a TV studio up there and in Newcastle. And you get the usual bits and pieces, the tea and the snacks going around. And I discovered Marmite on crumpets with banana. I discovered that up there. That came round. So I've never had that before. I was with you right until the very last word there, Jeremy. Everything was going right, and then you said banana, and then you blew my mind. It was a 90s taste for me, So it was good. Well, we go out sometimes, and I remember the camera guys were quite friendly. Where you going? I said, we're going out to Big Market to have a glass of wine. Would you want to join us? Oh, no, you're not going out like that, are you? You're not going out just like that. And we had our coats on. It was like November or September. It was really cold, snow. And there's people out there wearing T-shirts and shorts, and my God. And really hardened and tough. We go up Big Market. If you're going up, we'll have to come with you. You don't go on your own sticking like that. We'll have to come with you. So we went up Big Market with the guys, it was great. We had a good old time and very friendly. Of course, I always found people from Newcastle very friendly. We talked about all sorts of things. It was a joy. It was a fun thing to do. Quite hard work, though, being in the skins, being a physical artist. And then, so we were we all were sometimes in skins, zipped up, earpiece, and doing the physical part of the role with someone else doing the voice, or I'd be in the booth doing a whole bunch of voices and someone else was in the skin, or I might be a puppet, operating some puppet. But it was quite an eye because I'd never done anything like that before, being a theatre man. I'd done lots of telly and I'd done lots of radio comedy, but I'd never done that kind of thing before. And it was a great joy. And as I say, the spin-off from that, work breeds work, doesn't it? So the spin-off from that was I get the likes of Wizadora, and then the producer liked me, so I went and did Finders Keepers. And then that's how work generates work,
Were you worried you were going to get like typecast as a rabbit wrangler? As
Yes.
a man who
Rabbit wrangler.
is the rabbit guy.
I was only paid in carrots.
The occasional lettuce leaf, and they would fork the straw in your hutch.
That's about right. Oh, those heady days.
The lights, the glamour.
It was fun.
No, that's wonderful. I think we've probably, unless there's anything you want to add, I think we've got ample, lovely stories from you, Jeremy. Or unless there's anything you want to add.
We do need some advice though, because we need to get people to like and like. Yes, Miriam, to remember the things that we do. We need to get people to like and subscribe and do stuff. So we wanted to be quite cheeky and ask your advice. Because you can sell a mountain bike and a cassette record player. So we just wanted some advice. We can get people to.
Someone said to me the other day, "Oh, thanks for the advice," and I said, "Well, I never really give advice because Jeremy said jump off the cliff." Jeremy said get involved in this toxic relation. Jeremy said, so I don't give advice, especially unpaid. But I would say, what's lovely about this is you tap into nostalgia. And the way you feel about the 90s is probably the way I feel about the 60s, you know. Mm-hmm. I know I don't sound that old, but thank you very much. But the idea that... Charmer. Yeah, I think, you know, obviously, you know about how, probably better than I, how to get people on board. You tap into the nostalgia, don't you? And it's lovely if you're speaking to the likes of Alan Heap. And there are others, certainly puppeteers or certainly actors that you know, I know, we all know, that don't mind talking about it because it was quite fun to do. I mean, this is over half my life ago.
It's a terrifying statement, that isn't it?
Yeah, the words turned to ash as I said them in my mouth. Horrible. We'll cut that bit out. But yeah, I mean, I just think, talk about it. You do all the right things, it seems to me. I can't move on Instagram because of some of the stuff you put up. So it's very
constant bombardment of stuff.
Absolutely. It's working well.
I just want to get to that point where I can say, where I can decry how wonderful this podcast is and why you should listen to it with the same confidence that you talked about a brand new Walkman that was available on Finders Keepers.
Exactly. That's because we did try doing it, didn't we? When in the first series, we said we gave each other challenges. We're like, okay, now introduce a Sam and Mim podcast like you're on Street Mate or Challenge Annika or reading the news. We had some news ones, I think, at Christmas, didn't we? That was quite fun.
All of the ones that I did were just me trying to do which I now realise was like a composite of many different voices that introduce things on television. But one of them, Jeremy, was definitely yours. And now you can listen to like I want to get to the point where I have silky skills.
Silky skills.
I think I'd need to go to drama school. There's so much a long road ahead of me, but I think now's the time.
Now's the time
to try and get there.
If not now, then when?
But the one thing, I'll never look that good in a beret, Jeremy. It's just never going to happen. I've tried. I've got the wrong shaped head. Every hat, but beret, just no, can't do it.
If you want to get a head, get a hat. Or if you want to get a hat, get a head. I don't know. However you want to look at it, you know.
But yeah, we wondered if you might, and I say, you feel, you know, obviously, you know, we're not paying you. I'm sorry to break that to you, but but if you wouldn't mind just giving us one of your signatures, the lovely dulcet tones, and if you could say something to the effect of, why not listen to the Sam and Mim 90s Time Machine podcasts, would be fabulous.
So why not listen to the Sam and Mim podcast, now available on your usual platforms?
An absolute delight. No notes from me. Flawless.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
I think I've peaked.
I'll cherish that, Jeremy.
I'm going to have. It's the height of my career. I'm going to, or it's over. I'm going to have a little lie down now.
You do have that effect on people, Jeremy.
I'm going to have a cup of tea and a ginger finger.
We love you, Jeremy.
We love you too. Thank you. Peace and love.
Absolutely wonderful.
The 90s.